Hello everyone, welcome to our event called 7 Minutes with Civil Society. Today, we will be together with 14 civil society organizations who participated in the Empowering CSOs grant program funded by the European Union. For 2 half days, we will be listening to the project journeys of organizations from Ankara, Bitlis, Diyarbakır, Hakkâri, Istanbul, İzmir and Kars, who all work in the field of combating discrimination. And we will be listening to them more carefully in detail. So now to give the opening speech, I would like to give the floor to Nebahat Akkoç, who has been supporting us since the beginning of this project and who has been working in the field of gender and women's rights in Turkey for long years. Distinguished employees of the Hrant Dink Foundation, very distinguished representatives of NGOs, dear guests, I would like to greet you all. This grant program carried out by the Hrant Dink Foundation, I had the chance to participate in it since the beginning as a member of the jury panel. And I also had the chance to closely monitor the projects carried out in the regions. And I also had the chance to support some of them. And now we are all together in the closing event of this project. This is a wonderful thing, especially thinking that we are going through a pandemic period. So thank you very much for your invitation. This has been a very meaningful process for me personally, because I was going through a period whereby for the last 2-3 years, I didn't have much work at Kamer. We have a very young and dynamic group. So I, as one of the most or more senior members, I became kind of disengaged, trying to support the CSOs in the regions rather than working at the center. And as you know, after 2016, with the state of emergency, many CSOs were closed down. And I believed that was a period whereby we had to support the CSOs, and we still need to support them anyway. So for the last 2.5 years, that's what I was doing. And this grant program of Hrant Dink Foundation came along. So that was a wonderful experience for me. So in a way, it supported my personal process that I was going through. And I had the chance to closely monitor the projects and the entire process. So first of all, I would like to share some observations regarding how the process went along. I believe the process was a very open and transparent and objective one. It was extremely based on friendship and solidarity, and there were many principles people abided by. I had the chance to observe every single phase of the project, and I can easily say that this was the case. This is very important for me. Principles are always very important for me. They really matter a lot, and abiding by the principles really matters a lot, because we're going through a very confusing period whereby the entire world is in a way working in a closed manner, not very open manner, and the new world order that we long for is going to be created by us with these nice examples that we are creating. And these will be the principles: openness, transparency, solidarity, friendship, a principled stance. I have had the chance to see all these things coming into life during this project. Hrant Dink Foundation and colleagues from the foundation, I would like to congratulate you. You've done a great job. I have seen very closely that you went through many challenges. Some of the CSOs were, of course, more experienced. Things were easier working with them, but some colleagues, maybe it was for the first time they engaged in activities on rights-based initiatives. They had the chance to learn from you. The first information they had, that was the first time they got empowered thanks to you. And it's important for me to support the small organizations, amateur ones. It's more difficult, but it's very valuable, because you can't even imagine where it can lead for those organizations, especially with colleagues from Yüksekova, Bitlis. I felt that maybe sometimes you were challenged, but rest assured that your hard work will be paid back. It was a wonderful period. And for all CSO colleagues, that was a very unfortunate patch for everyone. There was the pandemic right at the outset of this process, but they never gave up. And with immense creativity, with a wonderful effort, they developed new methods, and all the activities they had planned were carried out. And from what I can observe from the CSOs that I closely monitored, they were still in the field, but they weren't negatively impacted by the pandemic. This power of CSOs, this creativity they have, this ability to come up with new methods even in the hardest times is also very promising, and it gives me hope. Well, during even the darkest days, everyone tells me that I'm very optimistic even in the darkest days, but they don't know where I get my power from, because I get my power from women. They change, they get empowered, they become aware, they make efforts to become equal individuals in the society, and they're raising their kids in a totally different manner nowadays. So I'm really very optimistic and full of hope for the future. We have a lot of reasons to be optimistic. And now I also have the CSOs giving me hope, along with women, because they've done wonderful activities with openness, transparency, solidarity. And despite the pandemic, they created new methods. Everything was wonderful. And I would like to thank everyone who labored for this process, made efforts for this process. If I was a member of the Hrant Dink Foundation, if I had the chance to impact people, let's say, I would actually consider repeating this project, coming up with a follow-up project. And I would like to greet you all with love and respect. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words and for giving us hope as well for this wonderful opening speech this morning. Now, I would like to share some general information about our event. Every organization will be delivering a presentation within the 7 minutes allocated to them. And after each session, we will be receiving your questions. Now, I would like to give the floor to the CSOs who work in the field of memory and cultural heritage. And by the way, we have a question for you as well. Please write your answers in the chat box. What could be these sites or locations that could be converted into sites of memory, or where we can carry out memorialization activities? So let's start with the first session. We have Dilan Kaya with us from Diyarbakır Association for the Protection of Cultural and Natural Assets. Hello, everyone. Can you see my slides, by the way? I'm not able to see it. Okay. So it's very valuable for me to be together with you in this event. My name is Dilan from Diyarbakır Association for the Protection of Cultural Natural Assets, and I'm the coordinator of our project carried out in Diyarbakır Sur neighborhood. Let's talk about our association, DKVD. In 1996, a group of urban volunteers established this organization to carry out different projects in the field of documenting and identifying different cultural assets in Diyarbakır. And Diyarbakır/Sur, a journey of memory project, came along in the aftermath of this conflict that we had in Sur neighborhood in Diyarbakır. It created devastating impacts, and after that we had the forced migration and the urban regeneration project that was activated, and it was in a way, and it became in a way an irreversible process. So this cultural heritage, we said we needed to identify and document them, so that we would be transferring this cultural heritage to the next generations. And this way we also aimed at making a contribution to social peace. So we had social memory and sites of memory seminar we organized. So we have a book, and we also shared the experience of Hrant Dink Site of Memory, 23.5 Site of Memory. And we shared information about memorialization processes and experiences. Archaeologists, architects, many people participated in, and possible sites of memory were identified in Diyarbakır. And we also had this oral history activity in Diyarbakır, Istanbul, Ankara, Adana, in 4 different cities. 26 people participated in this activity. And religious, social, cultural, different backgrounds were identified, and we wanted to come up with these witnesses and testimonies of people that bore witness to different things in the city. And we are actually aiming to share light to our social memory thanks to these recordings. We had shootings of 4 or 5 hours, and the map, book, and the oral history video were created thanks to the output of these interviews. These videos will be accessible soon on our website and on our YouTube channel. Another main activity of the project was the social memory workshops through human rights perspective. So we wanted to create a space for advocacy, and we believe that cities are important. Use of cities and urban areas are very important. That was the motivation we had. This workshop was planned as a 2-day workshop. On day 1, we were going to talk about content and theoretical discussions. And on day 2, we would be out in the field walking in Sur neighborhood. But because of COVID-19, of course, we had to carry out the workshops on an online platform, and we had to cancel the memory walks. And this had a negative and positive implications in a way. Of course, as it was an online workshop, the impact and participation we aimed for was not reached, but we had participants coming from different cities and different countries which enriched the discussions. So 105 people in total participated in 8 group works. And with the conflict that started an irreversible process, and this was an area that we prioritized based on our negative experience. So for 7 months we worked on this map. As you see on the screen, we have the national park. Everything was photographed, cataloged, and added to the archive work that was already carried out by the association. So inside the walls is declared as a UNESCO Cultural Heritage Site, as we know. And thanks to this effort, we were able to document these sites, and we wanted to make a contribution to their preservation, of course. For 16 months, we've done so many activities, and all the accumulated information and documents were gathered under our main work, which was an infographic map and book. Of course, it's not easy to limit all this information in one single book. So for thousands of years, there was uninterrupted life in Diyarbakır, and inside the citadel, inside the walls, we have had civilizations since the antiquity. So we wanted to make visible certain locations and sites. These unknown, changing, transforming Diyarbakır sites were revealed in a way. And as you can see in this picture, from north to south, from one entrance gate to another, we had the routes, and you will have access to all this information in 3 languages: Turkish, English, and Kurdish. And all these monuments that are still there and that are no longer there are included in this map. And the book will give you more detailed stories about these monuments and sites. Of course, it's not possible to give a full story of a city, but to the extent possible, we were able to, we tried to gather all the information that we could. And this was the beginning of a long term effort for us. So as we were ending the activities of the project, we also had the archive work that was going on. So all the written, visual, and oral documents and recordings are kept in the Diyarbakır Archive Portal project that we carried out with Anadolu Kültür. And we have a digital archive, and the materials included in the archive were used to revitalize memory and disseminate it. So we also have a website whereby we publish all this content. So at certain periods, we add this information to our website, diyarbakır.org. So these are small snapshots from the exhibit. The last year, our public sphere has become these screens, as we know, these online platforms. So it's not the same, but I would like to thank you for your attention. And it's very difficult to talk about these projects in 20 minutes, but there is huge effort behind the scenes by a great team. So this presentation was an opportunity to get to know each other. You can visit our website or follow our social media accounts or reach out to us through our email address. Thank you. We would like to thank Dilan a lot. That was a very good opening presentation. Now, I would like to give the floor to Emrah Polat from Social Research and Original Thinking Association to share their projects.
Hello, this is Emrah. I am from Kars. I would like to welcome you all. To start with, I would like to thank the foundation, Hrant Dink Foundation, and all the colleagues who work there. This was great support. We were established in 2017. This is a human rights centered project we are working on as a team in our association. Let me introduce a little bit our project. This is based on dialogue, mutual understanding, coexistence, fighting against discrimination, awareness raising, monitoring and evaluation, documentation. Our project involves these activities. We support differences, pluralism, and equality. And our project is around those themes. We are working on the lost cultural elements in Kars. There are 4 pillars. We carried it out in 4 countries: Turkey, Armenia, Russia, and Georgia. These are the 4 pillars. As to the Armenian pillar, it's very well completed. In Russia, we spent 1 week. We have 1 more week. But because of the pandemic, the Georgian pillar hasn't been completed. I will give you further details about the activities we conducted abroad. Now, the geographic location of Kars is very strategic when you think of its neighbors, very rich in cultures, traditions. We went ahead and carried out field work. We documented what we found out in the field. We talked with opinion leaders, members of academia, researchers. We worked together with these actors. We documented the results. We took pictures. And we've come to a very interesting conclusion. We decided to produce a book about urban culture, which was very much needed. We understood there is this common culture, coexistence culture, Alawis, Kurds, Armenians, Turks, Jafaris, and Estonians, and so on. People lived together. There was a very rich diversity in this culture. Peaceful living was prominent in this culture. And we learned a lot. One other thing we learned was that we are very rich in terms of cultural heritage. We have bridges, churches, and houses and buildings. However, unfortunately, they're not taken well care of, and we have to work hard on them to make sure they are a part of tourism and cultural activities. I wanted that to be taken note of. As to the activities conducted abroad, what we have done is the following. We talked with various authors, members of academia, researchers. We conducted research about those actors. Ranyush Horantian was one of the interviewees who was kind enough to accept us. And one other prominent figure, I'm trying to find a name. It's here. Thank you. Ripsime Simonian, very famous artist who has important sculptures and other pieces of art outdoors, very good pieces. This is also unique to Kars. And we also carried out a biography work, turned all this into a book, a very high-level academic book we produced based on our experience abroad. This is all about the culture in Kars, art in Kars. And authors, researchers, and members of academia contributed and were with us in an international symposium. This was the highlight, I could say, of our work. And I should say it was very productive, the international symposium, I mean. And we want to make sure this is a part of the memory of the coming generations. This was a starting point for us to produce a documentary film. So that's what we did. We produced a documentary. We had interviews. This is mainly about the culture of coexistence and living together. We had wonderful examples. You can find out more about these examples on our webpage. We produced 1 minute long video clips, more than 300,000 views we had on the video clips. They're also available on our social media accounts. And as a result, we contacted more than 60 media outlets internationally, and we had a chance to get international coverage in the media. You can see some examples on the screen right now. We follow the traces of coexistence culture in Kars, and we carried this from local to international level, from the remote villages of Kars to the rest of the world. This was an incredible opportunity that was given to us by the foundation and the EU. Thank you very much. Emrah Bey, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. Now, this brings us to the last presentation. So I would like to turn to Emel Benbasat from the Centennial Foundation Museum of Turkish Jews. This will be the last presentation of this session. Hello. Good morning. Welcome to the session organized by Hrant Dink Foundation. And in this presentation, we would like to share with you what we have done. And I'm Nisa Ishman Alovi. Emel will be joining me in this presentation. As to our goal, abroad and domestically, we would like to ensure sustainability and promotion of our culture. And thus, we introduced this project called What Our Jewish Past Taught Us. We have carried out 50 interviews within the scope of our oral history project, research project. Mostly these people are plus 50 years. These people tell us about their childhood. During those years, they fled the location. We're trying to build a memory, an urban memory, and we would like to transfer the cultural diversity to the next generations. For the interviews, mostly we visited the interviewees in their own place as their preference, based on their preference. At first, interviewees were hesitant and a little bit anxious to appear before a camera. Then they felt more comfortable. They even forgot the existence of the camera, and they started telling us about their childhood memories. And before the camera was on, they prepared themselves. They felt enthusiastic and excited. This was a secret shooting, but we thought it's okay to share this with you because people took this seriously. The way they wear, the way they look, they took it so seriously, and they were so happy to share with us their past. With the start of the pandemic, we had to have a pause. And then we resumed our works in outdoor places, and we paid attention to hygiene rules. Because of the pandemic, we couldn't visit some places. But thanks to maybe technology, we contacted people from Israel, Jews from Israel. They told us a lot about their childhood memories. We used Zoom platform to connect with them. This was also the case in Turkey. We used this technology to talk to interviewees. We had audio-visual recordings over Zoom during the interviews. And some of the interviewees were so busy, and they took a short break to connect with us and tell us about their story. And we went to some historic sites to talk to some of the interviewees. These people really own the place. They feel an ownership in this historic site. And we saw that they're making great effort to revive the memory. All the interviews have been recorded, pictures taken, and all was documented upon the consent of the interviewee. It was very impressive. It was like a journey to the past. Sometimes we shed a little tear, sometimes we burst into laughter. And they told us they lived in very large spaces when they were a child, but taking an old picture, they figured it was not such a large space, actually. It was just their childhood impression. This was an important common element among different interviewees. They showed us their old pictures, and this reanimated their memories. They told us more and more stories about their childhood, about the culture. This also shows us how life changes. It's not just the urban life that changes, the lifestyles have changed as well. The way we wear, for example, even going to a small store, for that, people used to pay great attention to their outfit. So while listening to these stories, we were smiling, actually. So they were so smart in terms of the way they dress. This picture is from Adana. You see how they wear fedora hats, smart clothes. The transformation taking place in our city is one thing, but this transformation took place in other places too. For example, this picture is from Hatay. Transportation used to be so different. Well, let's take a look at this picture. We produced a digital archive thanks to the pictures shared with us by the interviewees. This digital archive works is still ongoing. We collect documents from different cities, and this increases the cultural diversity that we can document. Let's take a look at this picture. This is the 13th year ceremony, entrance to adolescence. Grandfathers were so excited to tell us about their memories, because the adolescence today is quite different. Now the ceremonies are very different than what they were in the past. Let's take a look at this picture. A woman and a baby and the family members. And you see the special cloth hung on the wall. You see the identity here. This is another valuable picture. Traditions, cultural interactions, neighborhood, marriage, and giving birth, and their reflections on the daily life. These were depicted by all these valuable pictures. We were able to trace the story thanks to these. We also looked at the business life, business people, and the tradesmen, craftsmen in the Jewish society. We found out about an almost extinct profession. This profession is about a skill to fix and glue broken glass plates that women use in their kitchens. Well, each interview was so rich. We learned a lot. We heard different stories, and this was great in terms of increasing cultural diversity. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Before we go ahead with the question and answer session, I would like to turn to you and ask which 3 ideas you're going to leave us, with which 3 ideas you will be leaving this session. Well, please type your questions in the chat box, or you could also raise your hand to ask your questions at the moment. Let's take a minute to see if we have questions. Let me check. I think we should wait for a second. We received some comments. A comment about cultural, about our differences, and our differences making us richer in terms of culture. I'll wait a little bit more. All right. All right, I'll wait a bit. There was another good comment about Diyarbakır. All right, thank you so much. So let's take a break. Let's take a 5-minute break. After 5 minutes, we will talk about gender and women rights. Associations, CSOs working in this field will be with us to deliver their 7-minute presentations. You may have questions and comments then, and remember to type them in the chat box so we can forward them to the presenters.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Now, before starting this session, we'd like to ask you a question. In the second session of the day, we're going to start with the question, what is the first thing that we need to ensure gender equality? Write your answers in the chat box. And for the first presentation of the second session of the day, I would like to invite Nebile Bayrak from the Prosumer Economy Association. Hello, I'm going to be sharing my screen. Can you see the presentation at the moment? Great. Hello, everybody. My name is Nebile Bayrak. I am the Khadim project coordinator. I would like to again thank the Hrant Foundation for supporting this project and supporting us, especially in such a difficult period as the COVID-19 pandemic is going on, with the uncertainty that it brings, with the depression it brings. Thank you very much to the project team that has been the utmost supportive. So this project that we shorten like Khadim is the Women Economy Against Climate Change. And we tackle climate change through ecological solution methods, so ecological production methods. We believe that a sustainable ecosystem can be created with the participation of women, like a forest that is always productive. Obviously, climate change is a global problem, but we can see that its impacts can be varied based on different generations, economic conditions, age, and gender. And also because of the differences in property rights, in access to information, cultural, social, and economic differences, women and men have different experiences in terms of climate change. If we are to talk about social justice, it is not possible to talk about an environment where we don't have women. That is why the main aim of our project is to render more visible the women and also enable them to sustain their existence in the social sphere. Obviously, our aim is not to place an undue burden of saving the whole world on women, but rather render visible the currently invisible efforts of women and make politicians and decision makers take into consideration women as well as a political subject. Our first project activity was to create a network of solidarity. 26 women's networks, women's organizations became part of our network. And in the project, we frequently get together with women's organizations. We want to do these activities face to face, but obviously because of the pandemic, we couldn't do that. We get together with them on an online platform. And also we work with Önemsiyoruz social cooperative as well. They help us create sustainable methods and also help us with the development of business models. One of the aims of our project is to support women communities economically. When we say that, one of the common problems to each women's community is not to get their fair share in exchange for their efforts. Rather, the intermediaries gain benefits, but not the producers. The Prosumer Economy Association is working with Good for Trust. Good for Trust is working with ecologically responsible, ecologically fair producers and brings together prosumers. It is based on goodwill and trust. It is not simply an online sale platform. It is also a solidarity network that brings together prosumer and producer. We introduce Good for Trust to the women's communities that we work with and enable their participation there. And we have strived to provide economic support to them in this way, and we're still trying to do it. We had a documentary as well. That was maybe the only face-to-face activity, as a matter of fact, we could have. In August, when the pandemic was a bit down, and we waited for that period, as a matter of fact, when the case numbers went down a little bit, we got together with 10 women's organizations for this documentary. And we got together with those women's organizations that really stood firm against climate crisis. We tried to support them and also render them more visible and get their voices heard. We did the documentary because of that. And as Sevinç, the women that you can see in the documentary, says their last priority is actually economy. They first want to be appreciated because they're really trying hard to create a better world, and they just want to be appreciated first of all. And we have to know what they're doing, as a matter of fact. We don't know what the producers are doing. We just go to the market and buy our products, and we don't actually see what the producer is going through. And especially if you're engaged in environmental friendly production methods and sustainable production methods, we don't really see that. Therefore, we hope that through this documentary film, we're going to create more awareness. We have finished the shooting. The editing has been completed as well. We're going to have a workshop next month. And there we're going to show the film for the first time. Another part of our activity is to create a research report. We have had in-depth interviews with the women's organizations that are part of our network, and also we have conducted a literature review as well and received the input of the experts too, and we have checked the national practices as well as international practices. We are preparing this research report at the moment. All of our outputs are going to be published on our website as well. The research report is going to be completed next month. We also have a fair and good practices guideline. We talk about the practices of the women's organizations that are part of our network, and also we have received good practice examples from other experts as well. And we want this to be a guide for the newly forming organizations. We also have the Khadim Conversations online series. We get together with experts in areas that women need more support. And this is an online activity, as I have said. We also have the Khadim Practices online series because we would like to disseminate good practices as well. And this is one of the steps that we're taking under the project too. For example, for everyone, oil waste oil is a very big problem for all of us. And the municipalities don't really collect it. And we don't have very good practices about that. And it also has a very high pollution potential. So we have a producer, for example, who's turning waste oil into soft soap, Merve. So Merve has conducted a workshop for us about that. And also, we have as you know, the very simple bokashi compost method where everyone living in cities can turn their organic waste into composts. And we have had a workshop about this as well. We also have what we call Khadim Dictionary, and we share the very important concepts, the concepts that we deem very important in this dictionary as well. You can see our website here as well, khadim.org. All of our outputs are going to be there, so please visit our website. You can see what kind of organizations we're working with at the moment, what kind of activities we're doing under the project. So please go and visit that website as well. And our social media account name is Kadın ve İklim, Women and Climate. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, Nebile. Now we have Yüksekova Social Impact and Culture Association, and we have Esengül from that organization. Please go on. Hello, everybody. I am here representing the Yüksekova Social Impact and Culture Association. First of all, thank you to the Hrant Dink Foundation, who's enabled us to be on the ground for 15 months, and also to the Tamar Association. It has been a pleasure working with you. Could you come closer to the computer maybe, because we have difficulty hearing you. Yüksekova Social Impact and Culture Association was established in 2018 with the motto, if women develop, then society develops. After we have founded the association, with our own efforts and with the support of our friends, we have engaged in certain activities. While setting out, we detected the following needs. The only value for women and children in Yüksekova was the feudal culture and traditions. Generally, under the norms that are put on by the families, children would be married at, or women would be married at a very early age, and they couldn't get, access education rights. So sorry, but do you have a microphone, or could you come closer to the computer, please? We're checking to see whether you sound better at the moment. Sorry about interrupting you. So the women and children are going to change the project was the first project activity that we did using grant funds. However, this coincided with the COVID-19 crisis, but the pandemic didn't stop us. We worked on each day. There was a curfew. We have found out new working areas and new methodologies for our activities. And sometimes the work that we were going to conduct in one go was divided up into 3 or 4, but we still didn't stop. We went to households as well to visit women. We asked them about the women in the household, their marriage and their children, and we came up with the profiles of the women as well as their needs. And when we talk about household visits, the previous slide, please. Many of the women are actually going to houses in other places during the summer months, so we had to go to those areas as well in order to listen to the women during their household visits. We talked about the norms, the roles that are brought on by the patriarchal society, the negative impacts of violence on children and discrimination, and also we have introduced to the women the public institutions that they can contact if they need. While planning for the project, we had planned to reach 90 women with 6 small group works. But because of the intense demand coming from the women, we had a further 5 tours of small workshops or small group meetings, and we in total reached 172. There are still waiting to be contacted, as a matter of fact. We have had 49. We have had 6 tours of playing together with 49 parents and children, so that children can learn about violence-free engagement methods. And the results, as well as the impact analysis results, have been shared in an online conference with the participation of other CSOs working in the locality on women's rights and children's rights. The activities that have been run under the project, the impact that was generated, the statistics about the women, the feedback of the women, and also the public institutions that women can contact at the time of need, were published in a report. Now we would like to share with you some of the important observations and some feedback that we've garnered from the project results. The women who are the target group of this project, 76% of them had not been targeted by another project before. We have asked the question, do you think women are inflicted violence? 68% of the women that we visited answered yes to this question. When we asked them about the types of violence that women were inflicted, one half said physical violence and the other half said verbal violence. But they didn't know that physical violence in fact encompasses all different types of violence. %84% of the women interviewed said that women weren't making any efforts to free themselves of violence. And when we asked why, they generally answered, they gave us 2 general answers. One, because they were afraid, and the other, because they resigned themselves to violence and they didn't make any efforts. When we asked them about inheritance rights, more than half of them said that they weren't benefiting from that right. And it was found out that the property in which the family lives, only 9% of the property was owned by women. When we asked them about their own needs, one of them was economic support and the other one was that they wished to learn about their rights. In terms of the feedback, up until now, women said that up until then, they were only brought together to ask for their vote in the election times, and that they were very happy that we got together with them. They also said that after this awareness workshop, I can now talk to my daughter without raising my voice, and I just tell her that I love you, but I don't like this behavior that you have, and we can solve the question. And also one of the spouses of the women who was part of the workshop told us that I don't argue, I don't fight with my spouse anymore, because we don't have that kind of environment at home anyway. And I believe that because it is generally men who inflict violence, that kind of workshop or that kind of work should be conducted with men as well. So when we look at the results that we have garnered, although the baseline situation was not very good, the result was good. All of the women said that from then on they would protect their rights, they would demand their rights, that violence impacted humanity, and that there was no righteous violence, and that they would fight against violence. And in summary, we have taken the first step in terms of creating a system that the people who are aware also make other people aware of these issues as well. Thank you very much for talking to us. Now the third presentation of the session for Bitlis Women Entrepreneurs Association. Özlem Olgun and Ayşe Topyüz, please.
Can you please unmute yourself? Okay, I think now we can hear you. Hello. Today we will be addressing you on behalf of Bitlis Women Entrepreneurs Association. We will be sharing some information. Our organization was established in 2012 with the aim of supporting women. Well, in our association, we have constant training activities like wood painting, fabric painting, lace making, and some other courses, training courses are provided. And in our new facility, training facility, we are engaged in cooking regional dishes. We want to raise the awareness, economic awareness of every woman, as well as their skills, craft making skills. We will talk about the project that we started in 2019 and which we completed this year in February, which was about empowering women through drama. As you can see in the picture, we are on the stage and all our clothes were stitched by us. Next slide, please. Can we go back to the previous slide? Yes, the clothes you see here are stitched by us. So we've taken measurements, patterns, and without taking any assistance from man at all, we stitched the entire wardrobe of our play. And we also got the chance to socialize. Next slide, please. And here we are seeing a picture of our rehearsals. And here we have a picture from our diction and sound trainings. And we have had some exercises to increase physical awareness through motion and physical activity. Then came the global pandemic. We really had a lot of challenges. As you know, the virus came in and we had to work remotely. We weren't able to go to the association facilities. We had to shoot and reshoot videos, and it was very difficult for us, as you can see. But thank God, our training facility was reopened, and we were able to get back together. Of course, masks, social distancing, and hygiene rules were closely implemented. Next slide, please. Is there a technical problem? Are you not able to change the slide? Okay, here we have some improvising exercises. Again, masks are on. We pay attention to social distancing rules. And in the next slide, you see some exercises from creative writing activities. Most of these women are illiterate, by the way, and we were able to achieve very nice things. Here is a training exercise from our percussion lessons. This was one of our favorite lessons. We really had a lot of fun. And the rest of the presentation will be delivered by my friend Ayşe. Thank you for your attention. First of all, hello everyone. As my friend said at the outset, we stitched all our clothes and costumes thanks to the help of our teacher. So we came up with very nice clothes and costumes. Can we please proceed a little faster with the next slides? Here again, you are seeing a picture of a stitching workshop of the clothes that for which we took the measurements. Here we have, of course, a lot of challenges in terms of women's socializing, especially in the eastern part of the country. We have limited opportunities to get socialized. But then we had our rehearsals and we were on the stage. First, we were reading out the texts during the rehearsals. Then we started to come together and rehearse on the stage. As you know, because of this force majeure that the entire world was going through, we had these challenges, but we were able to succeed in a way. All our activities were carried out by abiding by the rules of social distancing, hygiene, and wearing masks. And we, of course, we're not expecting corona pandemic at all. This came by surprise, but we were aiming to address 100,000 people, but we had to reduce the number. However, the national TV channels, radio channels actually featured us, and this field of art, theater, or drama is very valuable for us women especially. And we started off with 40 women initially, but by the end we had 700 women joining us. So as the association, all activities, we want to continue them on a sustainable basis. We don't want this to be a one-off exercise, but we want drama and theater to continue to be a part of our activities. So as the association, we believe that not only for drama activities, but for all our activities, we first enjoy it, have fun, and we make sure that people also have fun, and we also try to provide economic empowerment to women. As a second item, we can say that we're trying to prove that women alone can also achieve certain things. So we're emphasizing gender equality with our activities. And on this picture, you can see that we have proven the fact that things women can do are more than just organizing weddings or family events. So we have proven it to people, and also women can benefit from gender equality and can get engaged in equality efforts. So that was very nice. It was wonderful. We had fun. People who joined us also had fun. We entertained them. We would like to thank you, the Hrant Dink Foundation, as well as the European Union. As women, we can say that it was very nice to be a part of such a project. Thank you so much for your attention as well. If you have any questions, by the way, please write them in the chat box. Thank you so much. Özlem, Ayşe, thank you so much. Now comes the last presentation of today and the second session. We have Emre Tamer, who will take the floor on behalf of People Management Association of Turkey. The floor is yours. And can you please unmute yourself? Thank you. Hello, everyone. I hope you can see my slides now. So, when we started this project, as it was the case for all other projects, it was the beginning of the pandemic. And in our world, which is the business world, in terms of diversity in employment, the pandemic really damaged the sector a lot. Here you see a graph from different countries. It's about the impact of the pandemic on women's employment. Unfortunately, Turkey is doing pretty poorly. And on the diversity side, on the other hand, especially the disadvantaged groups, are mainly working in the informal economy, and as the informal economy cannot benefit from state support, the picture is actually much more grave than what you see here. So business life and structuring it based on diversity was the main theme of our project. Well, the name of the project speaks for itself. It says "Together at Work." And it's all about being together, living together, working together, sharing experience in this field, diversity in the labor force, focusing on labor force and creating diversity there, and also creating awareness in HR units to increase their equipment in this field. And this is, of course, the HR letters in the Turkish name of the project. So that's what we say. Let's set forth on this journey, and we want to guide people along this journey with our project. So why do we work with human resources? Why do we work with HR? Because HR is sort of a bridge between the people working in the company and the company itself. So the HR department follows up on the new trends and the changes in management. And they also support and manage the diversity projects. So not only in big companies, but also in SMEs, the development of HR is very important. And why Peryon, the People Management Association of Turkey? Because we're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and we've made a great contribution to diversity in the sector. And we also have Gedik University supporting us, which also is one of the best universities active in this field in terms of women's empowerment. So we had many activities. Some of them were carried out in the format of exchange of ideas. We had survey and questionnaires that were implemented. We had feedback in our trainings. And then the accumulation of knowledge of Peryon and Gedik University also helped us a lot. And the information and the output of this these activities were joined with our trainings, awareness raising videos, social impact reports, website, mentoring activities, and press coverage. We were able to reach out to many people, more than 4,000 people working in HR departments, 300 of them directly and 4,000 of them indirectly got the chance to have some information in these fields, and they also now have the chance to develop their companies in the field of diversity. Now, let's talk about two data that came out of the survey, which are very important. On the awareness side, at this point in time, things look very good. Gender diversity and cultural diversity makes a positive impact to working life. Everyone agrees to that. Everybody seems to be thinking that we should have some diversity. But awareness, on the other hand, is not put into life at the same level. So we are losing 50% of the people. So people who say, when recruiting new people, I would prefer people from non-dominant cultures, only 50% is saying that. So yes, we have a certain level of diversity, but we still have a lot of room for progress. We are living in a world that is polarized, not only for Turkey, but for the entire world. This argument holds true. And the biggest problem in that regard is that the same concept is perceived differently by different people. Like Istanbul Convention, people understand different things from Istanbul Convention. People understand different things from the concept of LGBTI people. And then we have the glass ceiling concept. Everyone understands something else from the glass ceiling. So the most important thing is to come to a common understanding on these concepts. In our training activities, we try to explain the concepts to make sure that everybody is on the same page and they understand the same things from these concepts. So what about the solutions? This is one of the best practice examples. Please, I highly recommend you to take a close look at this. These are the women engineers of Turkey. Our aim is to achieve diversity in recruitment, right? So we are recruiting people based on equal terms. No one can pull any strings. And sometimes we have the AI systems coming into play. But in that perfect system, it seems to be always the men who are recruited, especially men above a certain age, because of the education system in Turkey and the structures that help people have experience put women in a weak position in recruitment. So companies and volunteers need to take action, and in order to achieve diversity in recruiting people, and in order to establish that environment that will help have diversity, we need to have training activities to make sure that people have experience and women will be a part of the game, and they will be trained and prepared for interview process, for instance, for recruitment. So benchmarks and best practices were explained to people, to the attendees in this project, and we wanted them to implement these as well. So in Peryon, we now have different youth projects. We frequently try to raise awareness on these topics. And the most important thing is, of course, to take action and be involved in these efforts personally. So let's show some pictures from our events. Of course, our kickoff meeting was done physically, face-to-face. Right after that, we had to go back to our homes. We had many workshops. We provided many trainings, all of them on online platforms. We had animation activities to raise awareness. So in that regard, I would like to thank the European Union indirectly, Hrant Dink Foundation, Gedik University, and all our stakeholders. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank you for this meeting as well. Emre, thank you so much. And this brings us to the end of our session. Before we proceed with the Q&A session, just like it was, just like we did in the previous session, we want you to share 3 takeaways from this session. What will be the 3 things that you will take away from this session? And all our presenters are on the screen. So first question is for Nebile, for the Prosumer Economy Society. They are thanking you for this presentation. And the question is that women's works in the rural areas, can it be considered as women's labor? If so, can you please explain and further elaborate on this? And are you also considering your efforts in that regard as well? Thank you. Thank you. What do we understand from solidarity economy? For those of you who are seeing this concept for the first time ever, let me explain what I understand. It's about exchange, alternative markets, community-based agriculture, food societies. That's what I understand from solidarity economy. And my answer to your question can only be a partial answer, because such practices, yes, they are in practice. If you're talking about an economic solidarity only, narrowing down the concept, I think there are some producers, communities that implement this, but in the capitalist system, the exercises or implementations are still not enough or widespread, let's say. So saying women's communities are not sufficiently involved in this also is wrong. We have some examples, different stores. For instance, there are people who are producing soap to go, for instance, or Aziz Nesin Foundation. They also are giving away soap, and they have exchange, barter activities, and community-based agricultural activities are there. Unfortunately, they are not rolled out in the Anatolian geography. They are mainly concentrating on the western part of the country, not in the eastern part. And these are also practices that are carried out in solidarity with the producers. But overall speaking, I can say that organized women's labor is important because women who are only present inside the households are able to open up to the community for the first time ever in their lives, maybe. In certain sections of the society, women who are not able to go out on the street without their husband's permissions, thanks to their experience in the cooperative, are able to even travel to other cities. And women-to-women solidarity is not important in terms of economic elements, but in general, the solidarity is very important because the cooperative efforts might be related to economic issues, but we had so many activities in terms of the trainings and the needs of women, and they are really supporting women. I don't know if I was able to answer your question.
Aslı Hanım asked the question and she thanks you. Moving on to the second question, it is revised actually and sent to Esengül Hanım. Let me read it out for you. Thank you for the presentation. The participant says, if the migrant society is available in your community, do you work with them? Are you trying to raise awareness, working with the refugee or migrant society? Esengül Hanım, this is a question for you. We have a border with Iraq and Iran. And we don't have many people who come from another country come and settle in our place. Even the Syrians didn't prefer to come and settle in our place. So that hasn't happened. That's the short answer to this question. Thank you. Then next question from Mehmet Bey to Ayşe and Özlem Hanım regarding their activities. How do you fund, financially support your activities? It's over to you. I think it's out of the grant. Yes, from the grant. We funded the activities out of the grant support. We got great support. Thank you. There is one more question regarding artistic activities. How could you convince the local women to participate in the art activities? Have you faced with social pressure? If so, how did you overcome this difficulty? About this question, we started with 40 women, ended up with 700 of them. Well, while conducting these activities, younger people, elder people joined us, younger and elder women. Some were a little bit shy, appearing before the camera, appearing on stage. Some were a little bit shy, but midway through the activities, they were courageous, bold, and they felt they're on equal footing with men. We felt as if we've proven ourselves in the eyes of the society. Some of us dropped out, some joined us. That also happened. Some of them had to drop out because of family pressure. Some husbands didn't like the idea. Some women had to quit. We tried to convince hard. We tried hard. I personally can say we tried hard. They saw me acting as a man and they said, how come I could do this? Yes, I said, this is theater. I will be acting as a man. And we tried hard to convince women, truly, some of them. But we had great fun. This raised our awareness significantly. This was beyond the conception of some of the women. Me acting as a man, it was inconceivable for some of them. Of course, we used makeup, costumes, and we did them by ourselves. We stitched the costumes, we did the makeup ourselves. Yes, there was significant pressure from outside. some men from outside try to underestimate what we're trying to do. But we said, you will be ashamed when you see the result. We will achieve such a good success that you will feel ashamed underestimating our efforts. But I would like to say we're grateful to the Foundation and the EU. This was very helpful to raise awareness regarding gender equality. Yes, there was pressure. Yes, we worked hard to convince some of the women that dropped out. On some occasions, we even had to go to the the house of some women to convince them. Yes, we did that many times. But sometimes we couldn't overcome the pressure, like the husband, the children, to be taken care of at home. The woman has to stay home. The woman has to go pick the child up from school. Yes, this happened a lot. There was that pressure. And sometimes the women themselves were the source of the pressure. It was not always the men. Some women were thinking, theater is not an appropriate activity for women. It was not gender appropriate, it's not age appropriate, according to some women. Some thought like that. Yes, there was this effort, the convincing effort. We made a lot of efforts. We tried to convince many of them. But once we put the show up on stage, everyone was impressed, including the men. And the audience said they wanted us to stage more shows. That was a success. Even the men were impressed with the play we put up on stage. Thank you, Ayşe Hanım. Thank you for sharing with us this experience. Another question to Emre Bey. The senior leadership of the companies, did you have difficulty to convince them? As long as they don't see the financial results, I think it's hard to convince the leadership of a company to employ such personnel. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was not difficult to convince them because there was high level of awareness regarding the importance of diversity. However, the problem we had was the fact that the practice was not there, the implementation was not there already. The project involves in-depth training sessions, introducing good practices. So the experts, the leadership in the companies went through this process regarding gender equality. So somehow we built a capacity among the leadership and the experts. And in conducting the project, these companies will get support from us. As to the financing part, it's not just on the basis of the companies. By the way, some companies themselves go ahead and work on diversity. They already have some social initiatives. And this is the core of their business. In such companies, they have clear financial roadmaps. However, one should also consider the fact that Turkey's most important economic problem is maybe low level of female participation in the labor market. Around 10 million people in Turkey are not truly participating in the economy due to the inequality in our economy. If they were a part of the economy, we would have much higher GDP. We would have higher if we had higher participation to production. This problem impacts the whole economy, not just individual companies. And during the project, we tried to raise awareness regarding these matters too. Emre Bey, thank you so much. One question to Nebile regarding alternative agriculture-based cooperation work. A participant says they are doing a mapping study and asking if they would like to share any advice. And a link is shared here. Would you like to make any comments? Otherwise, we can send it again to the participants. Let me type my email address here, says the speaker. I haven't had time to go through the content in the link, but why don't we exchange emails? I'd be very happy to be of help to you. Here is my email address. I send it to everyone. Feel free to contact me. Thank you. And there is another question. Özlem Hanım, I'd like to turn to you. Did you raise hand? No. No, okay. I have a question to Emrah Bey. Emrah Bey, thank you for your presentation. Oh, just a second. Yes, to Emrah Bey. Is that okay? Sure. No, I was thinking maybe we should end the session first, but that's okay. Please go ahead and ask your question. Well, you introduced some historic works you conducted in 4 countries, including Turkey. You had extensive research. My question regards Turkey. We have the Ministry of Culture and Tourism. Have you received support from the ministry? Have you contacted them? Thank you. We haven't worked with the ministry. We did what we did out of our own means. We haven't worked with the Ministry of Culture. Actually, what we did was Kars municipality was a partner in our project. There's Ayhan Bey, co-chair. Also joined us in a feasibility work before a trustee was appointed to the municipality, and we submitted a file to the office. This was about restoration and renovation activities. And you know, the negative atmosphere, there was a disconnect. So we turned to ourselves, we turned to our own means. That's how we did it. We didn't have contact with the ministry. But truly, there is an immense value here, cultural value, and we should create added value out of this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And there is a final question to all of you regarding economic, social empowerment of women. Do you think that was able to create a social transformation, a social change thanks to your projects? Let's take a round to get the answers. Esengül Hanım, let's start with you. And please turn on your mic. I'm sorry for this. Yes, we created, I believe, a positive change. As Nebahat Hanım said, one becomes optimistic when one works with women who have a good view of life, raise good children, and of course it will influence the society. Nebile? Sure. Yes. I think there was a change we achieved in terms of economic and social aspects. If women are more empowered, they are regarded as an individual in the family, among their friends. And once they're in the public space, out of the house, the woman becomes aware of the good practices and takes further steps to improve life. That is what I can tell you based on our experience. And I agree with Esengül Hanım about her comment regarding women raising children and influencing the society. Of course, we influence the coming generations. Emre Bey, what is your take on this before we close this session? I want to talk about the practices during the pandemic period. Working from home have become a necessity, and this strained the capacities of women because children do homeschooling these days. And we also had some activities to increase diversity regarding home-based work. We communicated with companies in order to make sure they open up kindergartens or daycare centers to support working women. We just discussed with them what could be done. We introduced good practices. Unfortunately, we lag 20 years in terms of female participation in labor market. But thanks to our activities, we have been able to create a butterfly effect in order to address these problems, I believe. Thank you very much. Ayşe Hanım, Özlem Hanım, would you like to add something? Yes, I'd like to say something. Well, at the beginning, there was a reaction, not just from men, also from women. And we have been able to eliminate those negative reactions. I'd like to say something else regarding economic freedom, economic independence. We've conducted theater activities. I think thanks to this, women were able to have a more equal footing with men. This is important in terms of social acceptance. We raised awareness thanks to this work. We truly did it. Özlem Hanım, we were not even aware of ourselves before we launched into this adventure. It was always men in the forefront. But thanks to this association, thanks to these activities, we have been able to come to the fore. Now we know what we can achieve. Now we're aware of our capacity. We can do anything men can do in this respect. At the end, the men congratulated us. And it's amazing to receive congratulations like that. Thank you. Thank you all. What a wonderful morning. Well, before we call it a day, I'd like to ask if the speakers of the first session would like to take the floor. If so, you could maybe raise a hand. Nisya Hanım, yes.
So when we were doing verbal history projects, we also took care that there was a man and a woman in the setting. Because you look at cuisine, for example, cultural life, children, through the women's perspective, and I'm talking about the olden times, obviously, and you look at the business life, for example, through a male perspective. So we needed both, and that was really valuable for us. Thank you to the Ranting Foundation for the support in this project. We have about 15,000 Turkish Jews at the moment, and most of us are over 50. Therefore, this is a disappearing community. The aim, one of the aims of the museum is maybe in 100 years, for example, these records, this inventory, these relics that we have in the museum going to see the Jewish identity that was once here. And that is why we're always collecting information. That is why we're always trying to disseminate information in the museum. So you can also check Müze 500, Queen's Centennial Foundation Museum of Turkish Jews website as well. You can get subscribed to our newsletter. You can also follow us on our social media accounts. We also have our YouTube account as well. We put our new videos there. So if you are wondering about us, then you can use these platforms and get to know us. Thank you very much. Dilan has her hand raised as well. If you can also take her comments. Many of us have mentioned very important things. We're mostly a female team, as a matter of fact. We have 10 women working together, producing together. That is why the solidarity among ourselves is very important. We care deeply about that as well. In many of our activities, for example, the mapping work, while figuring out the routes, we also figured out female routes, women's routes as well. And that feeling of solidarity is very parallel to sharing that experience, and verbal history in regards of that was very important as well, because the women experience is much more based on solidarity, and you have a solidarity that is sort of organically grown there, automatically grown there. And that is why we even attach even more of an importance there. So thinking about the life, the memory, the culture of an area is made more valuable through the verbal history work. And that was very important for us with the mapping work as well. Because we generally, as a matter of fact, talk about sites from a sort of a power-centered view. And that is why the women experience could be on the background a little bit. But for Sur as well, we have checked, for example, how women use their streets, how women use their households. So if you're saying, for example, that Sur is human heritage, then women give it its soul. And that is why it was so important for us. So I just wanted to mention this point as well. Thank you very much. Thank you. Then Emrah Bey, please go on. So, I mean, we haven't worked with women, but we have also selected women as our teammates as well. And in fact, we are to start a project working on women's rights as well. There was a pressure on you from the women, I suppose, Emrah Bey. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you very much for all who participated in the first day of our event. If you could please write the 3 takeaways from this event, that'd be great. We're going to be together tomorrow at 10 again. We're going to speak to the Solidarity Association with Refugees, Punto 21, Independent Journalism, Society and Legal Research Foundation, Turkish Human Rights Foundation, PI Youth Association, Social Rights and Research Association. Thank you very much again for being with us. Thank you to all the CSOs, all the interpreters, and all to our team. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.